my mom's problems had to be my problems. And you know what I'm saying? And so anything that upset her was my problem.
Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Chats. Today I have the beautiful Melissa Garver here, who is a comedian. And today she's going to be sharing some really interesting facts about how she was basically the parent of her parents as a child, and in turn, how she found some deep connection to help herself grow in areas that she didn't get nurtured as a child. So how would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never eaten one?
Very soft, very mushy, smooth, and sweet.
So it sounds like a lover.
Ooh, yes. Please.
Smooth. Are you talking about skin or conversation?
Both.
I knew you were going to say that one.
I want it all.
Why not? So when did you have your first existential life crisis as a child?
Oh, as a child? Wow, existential life crisis. I've had so many.
Going to have all day.
Which one?
First one. I want the first one.
I would probably say it was like in 6th grade. It was in 6th grade.
And that was how old, for those who don't know American school system?
I think, oh God, I think we're about 10 years old, 10 or 11 years old. Maybe I was 11. Yes. And let's see. I was about 11 years old, and I wasn't able to sleep. I developed insomnia. So basically it was because my mom was working, she was a nurse at the time, and she was working night shift. Okay. So she would leave every night at 10:30 p.m., which was about the time that I went to bed. And it really gave me high anxiety. And I couldn't sleep. I was scared she was going to get hit by a car, like a drunk driver. The anxiety was out of control. And I had to have her call me once she arrived at work, and I still couldn't sleep. I think I just felt really unsafe. And why was this a crisis? Because I couldn't sleep. And I don't know if I've ever been able to sleep since. Just kidding.
You felt unsafe. What was the triggering moment?
I think just knowing that my mom wasn't going to be there overnight.
Were you very close to your mom?
I was. Yes, I was very close to her growing up. Yes.
And were other people around your same age having the same experiences?
No, my brother was a year and a half younger than me. I think he slept just fine. He was sleeping just fine. But see, I'm the oldest in the family, and so I was kind of more the responsible one who worried about everyone. I was kind of my parents' parent, to be honest. My mom wasn't exactly the best mother. I was kind of taking care of her and making sure she was able to, so I think that had a lot to do with it.
That's an interesting dynamic though, right? You are the parent child, but the parent child very concerned of the loss of the parent, even though they're parenting the parent.
Yes.
Do you think that was some inner knowing of being 11 years old and not being able to financially support everyone? Like you had a worldliness about the world, like what would happen if they weren't there? You foresaw in your gut more problems to manage?
Oh yeah. I think that to be honest, now that I'm older, now that I have more perspective on what's the dynamic of my family, I I see now that my mom's problems had to be my problems. And you know what I'm saying? And so anything that upset her was my problem. I wasn't really allowed to have my own needs or anything,
Now,
you
let me
know?
ask you that. That was based on someone told you that, or you took that on?
Oh, both. Both. Oh, both. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, it was a lot about I don't think my mom could properly manage her anxieties or her life because I don't think she had the proper tools to do that. And so but at the same time, she was my primary caregiver. So I needed that. So I needed that support. I needed her to be there for me. And in order to have that support, I think I saw that she was in trouble and that she needed that. So I think that in order for me to be loved, I needed to make sure she was okay first so that she could love me. Does that make sense?
Yes, you need her to be okay for you to be okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you know, my dad was a workaholic, so he was not often home. Um and they fought a lot, and I would say get a divorce when I was like 8, you know, 7, very young. So this kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, did I take it on myself? Probably, but you know, was it for survival? Yeah. So,
Did you ever
um,
feel physically threatened in your household?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, 100% for sure. Um, both by my parents, both by my mom and my father. Yeah, my mother and father, definitely. Yeah, it
So
was
knowing
not,
that a roof needed to be over their head, you needed to
yes.
have basic provision. So you're managing two adults, but also were you managing keeping it between the four walls so it wouldn't come out too much
Oh
in
yeah. Yeah.
society so you could be okay?
Yeah, so basically I never really felt like I still don't to this day have like what people define as a family. I don't feel like I grew up in that kind of situation. What saved me, to be perfectly honest, was developing community outside of my family. And like you said, presenting myself as though everything was fine. And I did that for a very long time. I did that all through my 20s and part way through my 30s. Everything's fine. I made up, you know, variations of, yeah, this explains that and this explains that. And oh, they got a divorce. You know, it was very, yes.
Do you think that there would have been any way for a divorce or separation to occur where everyone would have flourished?
No. Now that I probably in the last 7 or 8 years, I've been able to see my family members really clearly, you know, for who they are, you know, just from a adult perspective, like who these humans are and how they function. And I really don't think that, no, I don't think even if they were separated earlier, it would have mattered. I did have a grandma that was amazing, who I credit for. I had her until I was in 8th grade, until I was about 13. She passed away. But I did have her growing up, which was a lifesaver, I think, for
What
me
did she
especially.
teach you that you still have with you today?
She taught me about creativity. She taught me about storytelling. She taught me about adventure. And um, she loved to cook, and she was a great cook actually. And I think I picked that up from her as well, like eating healthy and just eating well. And um, she was just a really great person. She was very giving as well, and I tend to do that too. So yeah.
And when she passed, was it unexpected?
No, Well, I mean, it was a little bit unexpected. Unfortunately, she had, I think it was 4 or 5 different types of cancer throughout her whole life.
Mm.
She had cancer in her arm, then she had breast cancer, she had ovarian cancer, and then finally liver cancer. And this happened in stages throughout her life. But finally, she was diagnosed with the liver cancer, and my mom and I we were scheduled, it was my spring break, I think, in 8th grade, and we were scheduled to take her to the hospital for her chemotherapy treatment. And 2 days prior, her youngest son had passed away. He had a long history of drug abuse. My family's a wreck. He had a long history of drug abuse, and he passed away. I think he was in his late 20s or early 30s. And that was suddenly kind of for her. And then we picked her up that morning, and she wasn't feeling well, and she was feeling nauseous and sick. So she kind of slept in the car. The hospital that we went to take her to treatment. I'm from a rural place in Ohio, about an hour and a half away from Columbus, which is where we were going. And so she was resting in the back seat. And then she was supposed to give us directions because we didn't know where to go, but she became unconscious in the back seat. And we got to the hospital. She wasn't speaking. She kind of was mumbling words, but it wasn't coherent. And we found out, they took her into the hospital, and we found out that she had a blood clot to the brain in the car. And she later passed away the next day. So yeah, that was my spring break. I went to my uncle's calling hours that evening, his funeral the next day, her calling hours the next day, and then her funeral. It was a really tragic time for my family. Yeah.
And so what was your perception shift from that?
With my grandma, when you're in 8th grade, I think I was about 13. I really missed her. I've missed her. I've missed her presence through the rest of my life, because I felt like she was a very grounding person too. She was very calming and very grounding, which was something I desperately needed with a crazy, chaotic family home. So I really missed that. I missed that groundingness. But I felt like she was always there, like I don't think that I still think she's with me, in one way, shape, or form or another. So.
And what did you notice in regards to perception shifts of family members around you?
Family members around me. Well, I guess I think that I don't know if this is necessarily perception shift, but something did happen. My grandma was very good at gathering the family together for holidays, and that kind of stopped slowly. It was just like we didn't really gather for holidays anymore. Not that there were a lot of us, but still, that's just kind of stopped happening. I think my grandpa was very upset about it. He had lost his first wife to cancer, and then his second wife again, So my dad's mother died when he was 2 years old. So I never really met my blood grandmother. So she wasn't even my blood grandmother, but was the grandmother, that I've always known, of course. So
very much a matriarchal figure.
Yeah. And it's funny because within my family on both sides, my father and my mother's side, like I've traced it back, there's not a lot of mothering. There's not a lot of mothering at all. And I think I was really lucky that I had something, I had some kind of a relationship with someone, a woman who was capable of mothering, in a way that was healthy.
Have you really looked back on what is a mother?
I have. I've been very interested in that in the past, probably, what year is it now? Like six years. Yeah, because I actually became pregnant I unfortunately had a miscarriage. It was very much not planned. And so it became very big in my consciousness, because I thought my boyfriend, my partner at the time, we decided, hey, we're going to do this. We're old enough. Why not? Like, there's no reason not to. And then, and so we did think about it. How did we want to parent? What kind of, what do we want to do for this child, and how do we want to raise it, and views and that kind of thing. So it made it a bit devastating when I did have the miscarriage. But it did give me the opportunity to think about things. And even so, the relationship I had with my mom, the relationship that my mom had with her mom, the relationship my dad had with his mom, who died when he was 2, and just going on. But yeah, I think proper mothering is about recognizing what your child needs, like recognizing what your child needs and then adapting to that for them. I think that there needs to be some rules, some kind of like some boundaries, some rules. I think a lot of I think we need to know what real actual love is before we think that I think a lot of people think that love is receiving something from someone, but love is really selfless, right? It really has nothing to do with you. You just want that person to be happy. So I think that is key in mothering and parenting.
So you
both.
would say that it is having freedom within constraints.
Agreed completely. Yeah.
And connecting to the source of all love being unconditional love, but not being a doormat.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, completely.
Right. So the learning in society, needing love is confused with adoration.
Yeah.
Love is confused with selflessness to a narcissist mentality, if you see what I mean, what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Which is, when everything is completely on service, then it's not. It's about, it's personification of personality rather than the source of in service to unconditional love. Unconditional love being that third entity. So if you're talking about a two for, partnership two, right? So both entities, individuals, right? And then you have I don't know, I'm making this up. I know it's like a bunny.
Yeah.
I don't know. So then you have the third entity here, which is the source of all of this love here. I'll just put my fist right here. So both of them, or let's just say it's the sun. Let's be the sun. This is the sun and the sky. No. So this is the sun, and the sun has rays, but they go like this, not like that, right? So the sun has rays. I don't know what I'm drawing right now. The sun has rays, and the two rays meet each other and think, oh, yes, love, love, love. But they are not acknowledging that both of them are getting their source of love by connecting to source. So one becomes either dependent upon another. And whenever there is codependency, it leads to abusive potentiality.
Yeah.
Whatever system. Okay. But if they both have connection to source, right, which is unconditional, and understand that each of them are vibrations from that source of light reflecting, which is why there is connection attraction in the first place, then it can continue to thrive as they continue that entity. So each person has to have their own time connecting to source, and then they have to have time together with source, right? Which is, and source here being the source of unconditional love, pure love, right? That is what the element of the true matriarch is, right? And embodying that into into a body, right? And so if we want to talk energetically, it doesn't necessarily have to become from a male physiology or female physiology or whatever is in between, right? So it's more yin and yang. It's sort of fluid. Think of it like water which in the Vedic worldview, water is the divine feminine energy, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about in regards to meditation, back here's a little picture of a book that we have called Vedic Meditation Stories, and that is a compilation of true stories of people who learn the practice that we teach, where we're going to go into underrepresented areas to give people who would not have had an option to look at meditation as a resource before, to be able to help people not simply reduce stress, not simply change their mindset or feel better, but have the ability to go in and actually have a perception shift, change one's consciousness permanently for the better. So there is more discernment. And that in turn leads to less codependency, right? One may want to be with some other person and love it and be with them creatively, everything, that's fabulous. But when there is codependency, there's no reciprocity. And if we want to use scientific terminology, scientifically, energetically, when it's only flowing in one direction and there's nothing moving backwards and forwards, it sort of dries up, right? And so you have to have energetically things moving in all directions for creativity, for spontaneity, right? And this is still the education that people are not getting for a relationship.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Things need to flow back and forth. Otherwise,
water.
Yeah. Otherwise stagnant. Yeah.
Right. Because if someone is always being a chaser, right, and then they feel good if they are the chaser, when there is reciprocity that doesn't feel right, that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
Right. And then if someone is being the runner, or we'll just say like a player idea, right, never actually being able to connect within or on a deeper level, look at what is true love, what is it, rather than if there's just physical activities that need to get sorted out, right, within. And so the mother element, how have you nurtured that moving through your life? What has helped you?
Oh, wow. Oh, you mean doing it for myself, right? Yeah, this is a journey. This is a process. I think, you know, my meditation practice has helped me tremendously. I've been meditating for a long time now, since 2008. So, you know, consistently since 2008. So I don't know how many years, a lot, several years.
Say 13.
Y'all can do the math. Yeah, y'all can do the math. Yeah, that's really helped me. I think it's really helped me to identify what I'm feeling, when I'm feeling it, in meditation, also outside of meditation. So there's like a miraculous thing that happens when you start meditating. You become more aware outside of meditation. Like you said, you know, that's the goal, right? It's the goal to become, to really change, you know, to really see, to perceive, to see what's happening.
Awaken one's consciousness.
Yeah.
From
rather than
not an intellectual point of view, although that can help, because one can sit, and I say one, not because I'm a snotty Brit, but because if we use the word you, people may think that I'm talking to you as the listener, you. No, my experience, one can have therapeutic conversations until the cows come home.
Yes.
But unless there is a connectivity and a shift within, which quite often occurs, a perception shift occurs through trauma, right, in order to wake up, then it will not be sustainable.
Yes, that's exactly. Even, you know, with the type of meditation I do, we typically, we focus on a meditation object, right? Like compassion for all living beings, or, you know, a state of mind. When I say mind, I mean, I point here because in Buddhism, the mind is at the heart, you know, the heart chakra, or that's what I practice. And So it's like a state of mind or a peacefulness. But even, even if you do get that for a sustained period of time, it's like habits, right? You go out of meditation, you can hang on to it for a little bit, but the more you do it, the more that it becomes a normal state for you inside and outside of meditation. So meditation has been unbelievable because it's taught me awareness that I actually need that mothering, or I need that, I think it also helped me. I used to be I don't know how to say this because it would gender and everything, but I identified with more of the masculine energies, right? Like I'm a businesswoman. I worked at Goldman Sachs, for God's sake, in New York City for a while. I was a lawyer, or I worked with lawyers. I almost became a lawyer. I was very much in that. I worked as an engineer first. I was in that very like corporate kind of mindset where like pushing myself very hard and not thinking about what I needed, or, just giving energy, and just that kind of mindset.
That is masculine energy.
Yeah,
okay?
that masculine
talk
energy.
about the energies, masculine and female. There is everything in between, but the masculine energy, it is getting things done.
Yeah.
Right. Active doing that.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about these from the divine element. Okay. So we're not talking about the human physiology, the divine element, that energy, getting things done. And then the energy of the divine feminine is more in the moment, the feeling element, being present. So go ahead.
Yeah. And exactly. And more, I think, needing that more nurturing time or downtime, or needing to like, to take some time and rest a little bit, recharge, breathe, and think, just chill, which is what drew me to meditation in the first place. And then, I mean, oddly enough, I was like talking to my mom on the phone. I'm like, I need to go into this bookstore and get a book on meditation. I'm too stressed out, like that was me. And then, that foundation of meditation has helped me to be able to read and see, all various things like therapies, like you said, it is what I think that therapy is great. At the same time, if you're just talking about it, there needs to be some kind of way to make some change within your life, rather than, because we can rehash. I love it. We can rehash, but there is something maybe where you kind of become stuck in the rehashing, or you connect to the past a little bit too much, or identify with it. But you need to move forward is what I'm trying to say. And so to change, to move forward and to let things go. But I think learning things like there's, I don't know if you were familiar with the terminology called the mother wound. So it's maybe like there's a gap where you didn't get the mothering that you needed. Right. And we all kind of have it, especially females, because of there's a mother female dynamic that's unique. So anyhow, it's helped me to be able to read these things, or to learn about self-compassion, or, these different practices that if I didn't have meditation or that foundation, I wouldn't be able to actually absorb it in the way that I am, and I'm not saying like, oh, I'm completely a new person now, but, it's helped me to progress. It's helped me to digest things, and maybe not, because sometimes, if someone says something to you like, oh, you need this, and that might really bother you, that means that you struck a nerve, right? You strike a nerve, right? If someone says to you, hey, Melissa, you might be suffering with some codependency stuff, or, and you say, oh, what? I'm not, that is a sign.
Independent person. I know I'm a free spirit.
Yes, right there. When you get offended, that should be an indicator to you. Don't take it out on the other person, but just say, oh, hold on a minute. Why is that triggering me? Why did that bother me so much? Maybe they've got a point, and then, then you can learn about it, and then you're open, right? If you can be a bit open to things, I think meditation helps you to be open and also not to take things so personally too. So back to the mothering question, how do I mother myself? I mean, I've learned so much. I eat very healthy. I'm very aware of what I put into my body and why I put it into my body. I'm aware of how I'm feeling when I'm putting food into my body too. So I try to be in a calm state so I can digest my food. Let's see. I think food is like an important thing with mothering. I didn't get a lot of the nurturing or nutrients at my house. What else? Pardon, I have a neighbor who has a motorcycle. I don't know if you can hear that. And it's like a Harley.
Accepting. So let's go over a few things so people who might have got a little lost. So when Melissa is talking about chakras, so there is an energetic science really from going back to the Vedas, where we have what are called chakras, wheels. So there's energetic two down the spine. There are what's considered on either side of the spine two, I'm going to say tubes for visually, right? And they're called a word is called Shushimna, right? So there's a passageways where energetic life force comes up, and there are lots and lots and lots of different types of chakras all over the body. And chakra translates as wheel, but you might have seen lots of images, and it's spelled CHH if you're English now, CHAKRA. And there are 7 of them that are in lots of pictures. You'll see people like cross-legged sitting upright, and someone might have a bun on their head. And there are 7 of them that go up. And so they start, number 1 is the base, sort of where your hips are. Number 2 is where the reproductive glands, organs are. Number 3 is right if you get your rib cage, and in the middle there's that little hole under there. Okay, just below that, or like I think of it like hooked in there, is what's called the soul chakra, right? Above that then is the heart area. Then you have one which is around the throat, and then you got one between your eyes, which scientifically actually matches up with the pineal gland, where you've got all that information. So this is actually based on science, even though it's called like chakras and all these words. Then of course you have the last one, which is the top, the crown chakra. Now the heart area, interestingly enough, when we breathe, naturally becomes expanded, right? So a lot of stop and breathe, that area, that chakra, is the opening up to love, which is unconditional love or source, you know, where you were talking about getting that mother love, that source. That is that area where if we can breathe into it, and it can be done very simply, like just I don't have to close my eyes, but I'm going to, and can just go in, and you can feel it expand, right? And this is, you know, might see people have their hands on their hearts there. They're actually feeling the expansion within that organ as well, right? When you do it, right? And connecting. And if anyone has had a heartache, or you've been broken up by someone, where do you feel it? You actually start, I'm going to move a little bit for those who are watching, you start to do this. You do what's called a C shape, which is actually pulling in the heart inward. Whereas if we are told to sit upright with our shoulders back, you find we're very open here, right? So we have an open heart. But if we are closed off from the world, we have what's called a C shape here, and we're trying to protect the heart. Yeah. Right. You haven't just been sitting in front of a computer all day. You're actually trying to, which is interesting. And if you want to know more about that story with me, you can just read the story in Vedic meditation stories about what happened to me. So this is why I know about this here. And so when we connect in there, this green, the color represented is green. And you can think of Earth, Mother Earth, and plants, a lot of green going on. This is the expansion of heart groundedness to connectivity to the earth, when Melissa is talking about the earth chakra, right? So if we see something beautiful, now the heart may ache, but the brain will say, no, that's not logical, don't do that. But the heart does have a capacity to communicate with our brain, right? And we're talking energetically here, like, you know, when one comes more in alignment with one's emotions, it's sort of, okay, that's fine. I'm feeling sad today. I'm feeling sad. Or, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed. COVID has gone on forever. Right? And then taking a deep breath, you know, and exhaling, can start to allow us to be in the moment more, right? Underneath that, which I like to call the soul chakra, really, the yellow light there, is where we might feel everything from if we know someone from before. That's where that comes from. My mom used to sit on the couch and go, and I know what that is. That's a recognition. It comes from a little below the heart. There's that inner knowing, not this wisdom here, but that inner, is it in, if we want to go more sort of to the meditation world, that's where the soul from maybe lives before, if you feel you know someone, you know them from in there, you just know them. That intuition does not speak brain.
Nope.
But the heart, if the heart is open enough, that can speak to the heart. If the heart isn't, or if there is a soul connection with someone in this lifetime, and this can be anybody, it doesn't have to be romantic, right? If there is a connection, whether it's if it's a connection from lots of lifetimes before, there is friction that happens. And then the heart area is like, what is going on? Not that person, no. And then the brain is trying to figure it out. If the heart isn't open enough for that connection, and this depends on the connection, right? There could be some real doozies that the heart has to open up even more. If that isn't open up, there is what we call the tormented soul, which can lead to the journey of the dark night of the soul. And the idea is you come through that, right? Because then that allows the heart to open up, that then the heart opens up, and one up here, brain has to follow the soul, because the soul always wins. Whether you are an old person drinking whiskey nonstop, bitter as all heck, didn't follow through with, we could just have been friends, or who knows, could have maybe finished that contract, or what was going to happen, right? It did. The brain said, this is not possible. It's not going to work out. I'm not even going to go and talk to that person. Whereas the soul is screaming, yes, you are. You need to do that. You need to do that. You need to go on that holiday, or you need to get the frig out of England, Paula, now. Like that. Waited a few years, because my mum, I waited a few years. She's like, you can't leave now. You're only 14. I'm like, I mean, I don't know where I was going, but I waited 4 more years. And so, but that was a movement that needed to close something out, right? And what happens is then one feels fulfilled, right? Connecting to it. Yeah. So this is why the compassion comes from the heart. This is why if you have compassion for animals, right? Or young children, or something very pure, it naturally will open up the heart area. This is what we're talking about, the expansion, and naturally one will breathe more. And when we breathe, and if we do a certain amount of breathing, and you can check out some of it, the pranayama breathing, naturally your body will go from fight or flight, which is what the mind is trying to do to protect you, and you'll go into that present moment, back into your body very, very quickly. So I hope you've enjoyed all that information that we gave today on this Cosmic Chat. Wow, mind blown. If you want to know more, you can go look at the website. Information about Melissa's stuff is down in the description. You can please like and subscribe. And if you want to have more info on what we're going on, just zap us an email and we will get back to you. I'd like to thank so much, Melissa, for being here. Ooh, yay.
You're welcome.
And if you want to back, pop it in the comments. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining us with this Cosmic Chat.